Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. But we are joined by returning guest, very special guest, part of the podcast, it seems like at this point, Austin Gayle from Pro Football Focus. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Austin. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
And me as well. I will say the Washington football team squeaked out the win 34-30 against the Atlanta Falcons. So my first question to you, what surprised you the most with the Washington football team's victory?
Yeah, I still think that this defense has struggled. I mean, it's obvious that it's been one of the more disappointing units for the Washington football team so far this season. Honestly, one of the more disappointing units in the NFL. A lot of people had high expectations for this Washington football team defense. So far this year, they've allowed a score on 57% of opposing drives. It's the second worst percentage right behind the Kansas City Chiefs. And against the Atlanta Falcons, it started off slow. They gave up some explosive plays to an offense that before they played the Washington football team did not have a single reception over 20-plus yards. You obviously saw that one, to Cordero Patterson on the blown coverage. So I do think that there's still a lot of concerns with this football team defense. And Taylor Heinicke is this quarterback that's very similar to Ryan Fitzpatrick in that he is volatile. He finished this game with 2 big-time throws and 3 turnover-worthy plays. It's a roller coaster of an offense because he isn't a safe quarterback. He's kind of a risk-it-biscuit type of player. And this defense needs to improve. Quarterback needs to limit mistakes. I think there's a lot that still needs to improve for this football team to reach what was high expectations. They were expected to compete with the Dallas Cowboys to win this division. I still think a lot needs to get better before you're seeing that moving forward.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. With that being said, on the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned Taylor Heinicke, and it seemed like he had ample time this past game to just sit back there, kind of dissect the defense, get the ball off. And that goes credit to the offensive line. What have you seen from this offensive line, and how the grades look so far on those guys up front?
Yeah, I think Sam Cosmi has been, one of the more impressive players this year. I'd also argue that Charles Leno Jr. has played well. I think the offensive line hasn't been a massive concern so far this season, but at times you do see some of these you do see them going against better defensive lines actually struggling more so than they did against Atlanta. But Atlanta really hasn't been able to create pressure all season long. Grady Jarrett, their defensive tackle, has been the only player that's really stood out as a pass rusher so far this year. Whereas going against other defensive lines this season, you've seen them struggle a bit more. So far this year, Brandon Scherff is actually the player that's allowed the most pressures of any Washington football team offensive lineman with 5. Or I guess Sam Cosmi has allowed 8. But at guard, that 5 number being a little bit less, more impressive in that, or less impressive in that it's harder to allow that kind of pressure. But I think Sam Cosmi, for being a rookie right tackle and already playing over 150 pass blocking snaps, he's been impressive. It's difficult to grade out as well as he has so far this year. But I do think that moving forward, he will improve, and the rest of this offensive line will as well.
Yeah, and I saw your tweet from earlier today on a certain wide receiver's route on the touchdown catch that he had where there still wasn't a flag for it, which is insane to me. The guy was literally blocking him 30 yards downfield. But that being said, with Terry McLaurin, 6 receptions, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, was averaging 20.5 yards a catch. What is your impression of Terry McLaurin? I mean, he's a superstar, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I said it, shortly after the 2019 NFL draft that he was one of the, if not the best receiver to come out of that class. And the only reason we're not seeing him have maybe the success of, other top receivers in the NFL is the quarterback position. He's not seeing the same percentage of accurate targets that other receivers are so far this year. Only an 83.4 PFF receiving grade, averaging just 2.34 yards per out run. You'd expect those numbers to be better for Terry McLaurin. But again, he's not seeing the target volume, the target rate, or the accurate target percentage that some of these other receivers are. But he's consistently creating separation as he did on that TJ Green, going against TJ Green, the cornerback for Atlanta on that route, and then even going as far as to win that contested catch battle that probably should have been defensive pass interference.
Yeah. I mean, these refs so far this first quarter of this season have been kind of shaky to say the least in a lot of these games. But sticking on the offensive side of the ball, a guy that I've been really high on since we drafted him was Antonio Gibson. It seems like they've kind of picked up his workload going into this season. He had 14 rushes for 63 yards, 4.5 per clip and a touchdown. They got him involved in the passing game as well. What have you seen from him so far? And do you think that he's been banged up a little? You think he can keep carrying the load going throughout the season?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is he has battled some injuries, and I think they probably want to give him the football more. He's only broken 7 tackles this year, which you'd expect more, but he's averaging close to 3 yards after contact per carry. A barometer here at PFF for talented backs in the NFL is clearing that 3 number, that 3.0 average over yards after contact. And Antonio Gibson approaching that. He's also battled injuries. I also think he could get even more involved in the passing game, especially because a clear number 2 really hasn't developed itself in this offense. It's obviously, Terry McLaurin first and foremost, but after that, I still think they're looking for someone to be that clear-cut number 2. No other receiver has more than 15 targets. That's Adam Humphries. I think this is an opportunity for Antonio Gibson to get more involved. Only 11 targets on the season. I want him to get more receptions, specifically playing from the slot and even playing out wide. I think they can get more creative with his usage.
Yeah, and then Austin, the defense again, 10 of 16 on third downs. That number has to go down. It's very, very putrid at this moment. And they were 3 for 4 in the red zone. Typically, it's a bend but don't break defense. That did not happen yesterday. What, in your opinion, what is going on third down with this football team, and how can they correct it?
I mean, it's the back end, man. I mean, I think a lot of people have had high expectations for the defensive line, and while they haven't been otherworldly, they've still been really good. The highest graded player on this defense so far this season has been Jonathan Allen. He's off to an absurd start on the interior. Deron Payne has played well. And even though Chase Young is not Myles Garrett quite yet, I know a lot of Washington football team fans were expecting him to kind of take this jump. He's still played well as well. But on the back end, William Jackson, Landon Collins, all giving up a ton of yards in coverage. Even the rookie Jamin Davis giving up some yards in the back end, specifically in coverage as well. I think the secondary is at fault for more of the concerns with the defense than the defensive line is. I still think that the defensive line is the clear-cut strength of this football team.
Yeah, and a strength of this football team, or a weakness of this football team, I would say, is definitely the linebacking core. I know Cole Holcomb had a pretty good game. He flashed on the screen every now and then yesterday. What have you seen from them so far, and how have they graded out? And do you think they can turn it around, or is this kind of just it is what it is at this point going forward?
So I would argue that, Cole Holcomb has been specifically impressive for where they drafted him. He's a super athletic linebacker out of UNC. I remember being impressed with his kind of athleticism score, but I think all of these linebackers have been put in kind of, liability areas for this defense, specifically John Bostic. The veteran has a 29.4 PFF coverage grade so far this year, and he was allowed over 200 yards on defense because they're so often putting him in this position against more talented, more athletic, skill players, whether it's slot receivers or linebackers, running backs even too, and that's kind of putting, he's allowing a lot of explosive plays, and I wouldn't argue that Davis or Holcomb have been all that much better, but they have been a lot better than Bostic. It's a defense that likes to play 3 linebackers a ton. That is an obvious weakness for the Washington football team as more teams run 11 and 10 personnel, and even at the tight end position get lighter and lighter.
Yeah, and as we're talking about lighter and lighter, I wanted to kind of touch on Logan Thomas real quick. We saw him leave after the first quarter, and kill all of my fantasy hopes for the day. But I kind of wanted to see what you thought the outlook was for him moving forward.
So injuries, obviously, you hate to see those things, but I also think, again, like this receiving core is lacking an obvious number 2, and everyone has such high expectations for Logan Thomas. Only 14 targets on the season, catching 12 for 117 and a touchdown. You can't afford for Logan Thomas to become just a red zone threat. This offense needs a second explosive piece. And 100%. Logan Thomas isn't the next coming of Kyle Pitts or Darren Waller, but you need something because, or another reason why Terry McLaurin maybe isn't producing at the rate of, some of the other top receivers in the NFL is that he's consistently getting the extra attention from opposing coverage units because he's largely their only explosive play guy, the only guy that's running low 4.4s, high 4.3s in this offense. Yeah,
and you guys just heard Todd Wright joining in with us for our 4th honorary member for Reed tonight since he's at work. But my question for you, Austin, is J.D. McKissick. He was an undrafted free agent. He worked out for the Atlanta Falcons. He ended up getting waived, and then come full circle yesterday, He scores the game winner, which was absolutely amazing. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Antonio Gibson's shoulder got banged up on a penalty early in that drive, and I don't think he came back in the game, so we have to look out for that. But Austin, it's not only J.D. McKissic's ability as a receiver and catching the football. I also saw in blocking situations, he almost killed a guy, and in crucial downs, he was putting up blocks and keeping Taylor safe. How good was he yesterday?
Oh, J.D. McKissic was fantastic. I think he's always been a very talented, passing situation or third down, fourth down running back because he's such a talented pass catcher. And a lot of the reason why he was undrafted in 2016 is because he went to Arkansas State. Arkansas State, 5'10", 195. Not a lot of people getting eyes on him. He enters the NFL, and even in Seattle, competed with a talented running back room, a highly drafted running back room to get touches specifically on these money downs, these third and fourth downs. And, this past week coming up with the game winner, but also I think he'll consistently eat away where possible at some of the touches or targets that Antonio Gibson will get because he is that talented.
Hear me? I was frozen for a second.
Yeah, you're good.
Right, cool. And speaking of a guy that didn't really make an impact as far as stats-wise and numbers-wise, but Curtis Samuel finally made his return to the field on Sunday. I think he had 4 catches for about 30 to 40 yards, but 3 of them were first downs. And you were talking about a guy being that second receiver, being that explosive guy downfield. Do you think they're going to use him more of that kind of intermediate kind of a move the chains guy, or do you see him being that down the field kind of threat to relieve that pressure off of Terry?
Man, you have to hope that he can be another explosive weapon for this offense, but not a lot of his usage indicating that. Had a negative 1.5 average depth of target on 4 targets in this game. If they're going to use him as this second Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissic piece, it's like it doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, they need people creating separation down the football field. You want to see his average route depth improving. Obviously, some of that's probably like warming him up. He has been a player that has had a lot of success with the ball in his hands, dating back to where he played running back at Ohio State. I still think he has the speed, the talent to win on the outside. He ran 50% of his routes from the outside receiver alignment this past week. You want to see that improve. You want to see him run more downfield routes as his body gets healthy. But I think a lot of them is also a lot. Washington's probably protecting him, protecting his stamina, trying to get him up to speed before they really unleash him. But moving forward, 2-3 weeks time, I think Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin need to be consistently running routes downfield and opening big plays up for Heinicke in this offense.
So, speaking about other people that need to consistently show up and progress, what is going on with the progress with Jamin and Cole?
So, talking about the linebackers a little bit earlier, I think Jamin Davis, the linebacker position is one of the hardest positions to play in the NFL, translating from college to the pros. We've seen that with Devin White, Devin Bush, Patrick Queen, Jordan Brooks. A lot of highly drafted, very athletic linebackers struggle going from college to the NFL because the speed of the game changes and the focus less becomes on stopping the run and stopping the pass. It shifts to playing play action, catching faster, lighter tight ends, and even covering slot receivers. And Cole Holcomb has struggled with that. Even, obviously Jamin Davis has struggled with that, but obviously Bostic being the biggest liability at linebacker for the football team. Your offense, especially in 4-3 alignments, put in a position where you are covering a guy who is multiple tenths faster than you and leaving you open, especially when you are running some of these zone coverage concepts as well. I'm not, it's a position where a lot of linebackers are losing. The highest graded linebackers in the NFL are ones that are avoiding big plays in coverage. They're still allowing a lot in coverage, but they're not allowing these explosive plays in coverage. I think that's that next step for this linebacking core as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. One of the plays from yesterday that really turned the tide was the opening of the second half. DeAndre Carter took the kickoff return for a touchdown. Was there anything that you saw on film? What sprung that run, or did he just literally was able to have great vision and be able to see through everything?
So I think any kick return is never any one person's doing. It's so much of it is, the vision of the kick returner, but also getting the block set up. And a lot of times too, it's a, special teams coach picking something up on film and seeing, a guy that doesn't have good gap or lane integrity on the kickoff team and these things. I think that was probably a combination of what happens there. And sometimes that's what you do need to spark, momentum to get this team back in. I think that was obviously a big piece.
Right. And you mentioned Taylor Heinicke earlier, how it's kind of a roller coaster with that guy, kind of someone called him a Fitzpatrick on steroids type of player. Do you kind of see him keeping up this, not consistency with the offense, but do you see him putting up points, keep putting up points with his offense and kind of keeping his team afloat? Or do you think that eventually he'll fall back to what everyone thinks he is, which is a high-end backup quarterback.
I mean, I think Taylor Heinicke is more than capable of having a Ryan Fitzpatrick-like impact on this football team. Is that good or is that bad? It's hard to say. I think looking at just the box score, 23 of 33, 290 and 3 TDs, people are already sprinting to the stores to get their Heinicke jerseys. But when you look at the tape and see the 3 turnover-worthy plays he put on tape, and also taking a sack in this one, over 3 seconds on average time to throw, like, you can't win, against the best defenses in the NFL, working so much out of structure and putting the ball in harm's way as often as Heinicke is. It's very difficult, especially when this football team is giving up scores on 57% of opponent drives. Like, this is a quarterback that can win if the defense was playing at the level it was late last season, top 5, top 3 level. Right now, giving up as many points as they did to what was a hapless Atlanta Falcons offense in the first 3 weeks, I don't think this is sustainable. Heinicke needs to reel it in while maintaining some of the high-end plays. I think the skill group specifically needs to step up outside of Terry McLaurin.
So I'm going to go back to the other side of the ball. I like to jump around a lot, an ADD thing. So Bobby McCain, Landon Collins playing 100% of the snaps. Is that sustainable? Does that continue? Do they want that to continue? Like, what do you think?
So it is for, some players can hold up that kind of, snap play. I think that's something that I'm not super surprised that Kendall Fuller's able to do and Landon Collins is able to do. As for, Bobby McCain, a bit concerning. Allowed 3 receptions for 72 yards in this game. A lot of the explosive plays coming from him, including that 42-yarder. This secondary needs an injection of talent because you even had William Jackson playing 74 of 76 snaps in this game. I want to see this secondary take the next step, as we get to the last 3 quarters of this season, in order for this defense to step up. And I think a lot of people are bringing the spotlight again to this defensive line. It's like, you're supposed to be a top 3 unit in the NFL. Chase Young's supposed to be the next coming of Myles Garrett. They're playing well. The problem is no one's holding up on the back end, and people are giving up way too much separation in the secondary.
Absolutely. Now, to wrap this up, Austin, I have a 2-part question for you, of course. My first one being, can you please, from a national perspective and from an intellectual like yourself, can you please explain to me the Chase Young flag for roughing the passer?
I can't, man. I can't. I mean, the roughing the passer stuff has gotten progressively worse as the NFL has moved forward. And I know they're kind of protect. Yeah. But it's getting to the point where it's changing how pass rushers have to approach tackling quarterbacks, or even affecting quarterbacks. And I think some of this is going to have to change at the bottom levels of football and how you're coaching players to approach the quarterback. And I just don't think that was what the NFL intended. I still think that I think they over-adjusted. I think the NFL has over-adjusted in protecting the quarterback to a point where it's negatively affecting the game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What a great way to put that. Now, yesterday, the Saints have lost to the New York Giants, who Washington beat a couple weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. They are a good team. They are. Sean Payton is one of the best offensive coordinators at drawing up plays and getting guys out into space. Given with what we saw yesterday, do you think Washington football team has a chance this weekend against the Saints?
Oh, 100%. I mean, this offense for the New Orleans Saints is abysmal. I think you look at what they did even against Green Bay and what was obviously a super impressive win in week 1. It's a very conservative offense that is running the football at the highest rate in the NFL. So conservative, not opening things up with Jameis Winston. They're attempting a very few amount of deep throws. That's what this Washington football team defense has struggled to compete against. So you can actually go into this go against the Saints offense and have a strength advantage in that they're not trusting, Sean Payton specifically is not trusting Jameis Winston to throw the football deep. You have to stop the run. And that's something the Washington football team has had success with. This is a good matchup for the football team. What can't happen, Heinicke can't turn the football over. It's still a very talented defense, and they have to find some ways to get pressure on the quarterback against what is a very good offensive line.
You got to be able to stop Alvin Kamara. That's going to be number one rule. I can't thank you enough for joining us again, Austin. You're obviously very, very busy man working for Pro Football Focus and the great stuff that you do. Before you go, just in case there's anybody watching doesn't follow you yet on social media, if you want to plug your stuff in so they can follow your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow me on Twitter at PFF_Austin Gayle, AUSTINGAYLE. And you can go to check out all of our stuff here on PFF.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Austin. I hope you have a great night, sir. Enjoy your weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Man.
All right. Thank you, Austin. That was great. We just spoke with Austin Gayle of Pro Football Focus yet again. Great guy. Great guy.
I love getting into the numbers and breaking it down like PFF guys. I mean, I just love having them on.
Absolutely love having them on. Todd, it's good to see you, sir. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm becoming more regular. I like this.
You are.
Victory Monday, baby.
That's exactly what is happening right now. Now, before we get it any further, I just wanted to say to you guys that game was absolutely phenomenal. And speaking of phenomenal, the Burgundy Zone is part of Listen Frederick, a curated network of local podcasts produced in and focused on the Frederick area. Along with highlighting local talent, Listen Frederick hopes to bring local stories, voices, and personalities together to create a podcast community. Listen Frederick is part of the Manning Media family, home of Key 103 and 106.9 The Eagle. You can check out more about us and other shows on the network at www.listenfrederick.com. What a fantastic game that was yesterday, fellas. I mean, that was just a roller coaster of emotions. But before we get our last guest on here, I wanted to kind of ask you guys some questions that were sent in. And the first one we have to go to none other than my man, the Colonel. All right? And Hall, I'll start with you this one first. Any realistic possibility that the Washington football team goes after linebacker depth in free agency now that Bostic is out?
That's a good question. Normally, I would say yes, but if you work back a couple weeks after the preseason was over, Rivera said to the media, they asked about the linebacking core, and he said that he mentioned that they weren't done at that position, and that they were going to add, but a quarter into the season, they haven't added anyone. So, and the linebacker play has been down, to say the least, from the beginning of the season up till now. So for them to not add anyone along the way for those first 4 weeks, obviously the injuries there, so that could definitely factor into it. But just going off of what they've done for the past 4 weeks, I'm going to say no. Would I like them to add somebody? Yes, I would, especially if a guy like Jamie Collins is out there on the free agency wire. But again, they said they're going to add somebody weeks ago, and they haven't added anyone. They still have that roster spot open, unless Curtis Samuel took it. I can't remember or not.
He did.
But, okay, yeah. But either way, with Bostic going down, I don't know if they're going to promote someone from the practice squad, which that seems to be what Rivera likes to do instead of bringing in outside guys. So for right now, I'm going to say no, but I'm hoping that they do.
Yeah, I know Cole Holcomb had gotten injured in the game yesterday. He was kind of squeezing his arm. It might have been a bicep issue, but he stayed in the game. And then John Bostic tore his pec. Right now, they're expecting it to be a long recovery. They don't know if it's going to be.
I just came out and said he's done for the season.
Oh, he is done for the season.
Right now?
Yeah, So Bostic is not going to be returning. And I know Ron Rivera in his press conference today talked about calling up David Mayo, which is almost like John Bostic, but a smaller version. Obviously, the brain is not the magnitude of John Bostic, but I would not be surprised if they went after a guy like Bernardrick McKinney of that sort, because with losing John Bostic, it's not like you're losing speed. You know, you're trying to get that replica in there, and Bernardrick McKinney could be a guy like you could go and swing. If not that, if Jordan Hicks is still available from Arizona, let's see what we could do there to bring him in here. What about you, Todd?
I mean, Rivera loves his guys. Who's available that Carolina had over the last 5 years?
Luke,
he loves there. Exactly. Please. Oh God, could you imagine?
That would be crazy.
That would be everything would just be wonderful and magical again. I don't know anyone that they would have targeted right this moment. He definitely loves people from his system. He loves his little farmhouse and calling people up from the practice squad. So I could definitely see that happening. Yeah.
That's it.
Everything's going to be everything's going to be a little step back, but it's not like the linebackers were playing phenomenally anyway. So,
and I will say, last season we were kind of doom and gloom at this point when Landon Collins went out. Cam Curl came in and stepped up and did really well. You know what I mean? So that could always be the case. We don't know. Could be a gift in disguise. You don't know. But the Colonel's next question, I'll keep this with you, Todd. McKissick appears to have an increased snap count, and it's pretty exciting. Is Scott Turner opening up the offense and spreading the ball around more?
God, I hope so. It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting the ball to McKissick. He's getting the ball to Gibson. He's getting the ball to Terry. It looks like there's options to pass the ball around. Hopefully Logan Thomas is one of those options moving forward, and he's not out for any extended period of time. But I like them spreading the ball around and not just having to rely on Terry for every single play of the game. And you have options, and that's going to open up Terry on some of those longer passes. And you can use some of those looks towards the running back and open things up down the field and in the middle of the field like everyone else does to us.
Yeah, and look, dude, Colonel, I'll tell you, I rewatched the game today, and J.D. McKissick in every facet was blowing up and doing well. I mean, there was a ball where Taylor Heinicke, it's 3rd and 7, maneuvering around the pocket, escapes, and has defenders collapsing in on him, but he's able to see J.D. McKissick crossing the field. He sets his feet, throws the ball. It's kind of high. J.D. McKissick jumps up, catches it, and then does a spin around the defender to pick up the first down. And that's what led to the Terry McLaurin touchdown at the back end of that end zone in the 4th quarter. And then, I said it earlier, J.D. McKissick almost killed a guy on a pass block. It was absolutely
crazy.
Yeah. He was dominant in all facets of that game yesterday. I was blown away with his play. And I don't think it's – I also believe that Antonio Gibson did get nicked up late in that game. There was a flag thrown on the DB, number 24. I think he hit Antonio when the ball was coming in, and you're not allowed to do that, a defenseless receiver, I think it is. And he hit him pretty good in the shoulder. And, AG was walking back going like this. So I don't know if he came back in the game or not. Maybe that has something to do with JD. But I'm glad that JD got those snaps because obviously he's the best pass-blocking running back that they got, the best pass-catching running back that they got. No disrespect to AG. I know the screen against the Bills was amazing. But obviously what JD did, that burst that he had around the end for that game-winning touchdown, how on one leg he was able to get that space away from the defender in that amount of time was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, for him, do you see the amount of air he got when he dove from like the 5-yard line?
He was like up at their helmets.
Yeah, he looked like
he looked like he was jumping. Looked like he was jumping like he knew he had Dustin Hopkins back there as the option to kick.
Yeah, literally.
That's what he was jumping for.
Seriously though. But yeah, as far as J.D. McKissick and the offense goes, I definitely think that Scott's kind of getting in his bag as far as like Curtis Samuel being back. You saw a lot more like pre-snap stuff. You saw Curtis Samuel kind of working that short to intermediate routes. And I think as he gets healthier, I think that it'll open up the offense more. Obviously, Taylor Heinicke's been in his offense since going back to his Minnesota days with Scott Turner there. So I just feel like it's Taylor Heinicke knowing the whole offensive playbook front to back, knowing all his reads, every single play where everyone's going to be at all times. Perfect example is J.D. McKissick on the touchdown pass. That was his 5th option. Scanned all 4 options, came all the way back to the right side of the field, hit him on the dump out. So I definitely think that Taylor Heinicke's play is giving a little bit more trust in Scott Turner to kind of open the offense up more and kind of call those type of plays where you can make some explosive plays happen, whether it be down the field or intermediate with a playmaker getting down the field. So I definitely think that, like Austin Gayle said, with AG being nicked up, I definitely think they're going to kind of spread the wealth as far as the running back go.
Yeah, dude, I just want to say this before we move on to the next question. The offensive line did an incredible job yesterday. One of the only reasons why they were able to hit the ball downfield they were on multiple times to gain first downs on long second downs and long third downs is because the offensive line kept him clean. He was able to sit back in that pocket and be able to navigate things. They did a fantastic job yesterday, and I truly do believe that Sam Cosmi is our best offensive lineman right now, to be perfectly honest. I know Wes Schweitzer came in as relief from Brandon Sheriff because it looks like Brandon Sheriff is going to be out for a couple weeks now. So Wes Schweitzer is going to be coming in. I would not be surprised to see Sadiq Charles being active this week since he was inactive for the game yesterday. So with Sheriff going out, looks like Schweitzer is going to be stepping in at right guard. Maybe Sadiq Charles takes that over because Schweitzer did not look that good yesterday. But to keep this with you, Hall, last question from the Colonel before our guest comes here. Was Curtis Samuel's debut about what you expected?
Yeah, they had mentioned going into the game that he would be on a pitch count about 20 to 25 plays maximum. I think he hit the 25-play maximum. So, and again, did I think he was going to be some crazy downfield threat and go for 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards, 8 catches? No. I know they're going to try to work him back in slowly but surely. They don't want him to re-injure his groin or re-injure or injure something else while trying to kind of work him back into the offense. So, did I expect him to have 4 catches, 3 of them for first downs? No, but obviously that definitely helped the offense. Definitely helped move the change. This has been a horrible third down offense on both sides of the ball. So that was definitely good to see him kind of get back in the mix and to see him have that rapport with Taylor Heinicke from the first game they played together.
Yeah, 4 receptions, 19 yards, and 3 of them were for first downs. It is about what I expected, and I loved how they were able to use him in their short yardage situations. There was one route that he ran where he ran it in and then an out and completely just juked out the corner. He was like looking for the ground, trying to find his footing. He did so well. I was very impressed with how he looked. I thought he would look a lot more rusty, coming in, but it looked like he was ready to go, in shape, and is tuned up, ready to go for the limelight. And I think that they did it right with him because it wasn't like they used him too much. But, dude, those catches that he had, they were huge, man. Those were pivotal to the success of the team. And Curtis Samuel came in and did really well. I did expect him to have over 40 yards, but the 19, I know it's a small number, but those were crucial.
Oh, yeah. I mean, every catch he made was crucial. When you get 3 first downs for a team that has serious issues picking up first downs, it's phenomenal. I mean, for what we thought it would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we are joined for the first time ever, Mr. Mathew Paras from the Washington Times. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Mathew. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. What's up, guys?
Hey, doing great, except for the latest news that just came out from today. Look, I know we want to keep this with football and everything, but I wanted to ask you, in your professional opinion, Matt, what's going on with this whole Ryan Vermillion thing? I know Coach has been very tight-lipped because at what happened was last week, the team facility had gotten raided. They arrested Ryan Vermillion. The team is saying that it's not related to them whatsoever. They're just kind of the middlemen here. What's going on with that situation?
Well, just to provide clarity, he hasn't been necessarily arrested yet.
Oh, sorry.
He's just the ongoing. He's the focus of an ongoing investigation.
Okay.
And so while that carries on, they've placed him on administrative leave. We don't know if he's being paid or not while he's still on leave, but yeah, it's kind of a mystery right now. I mean, this is pretty unexpected. Ryan Vermillion has been around in the NFL for decades at this point.
Going back to Don Shula, right?
Yeah. And he was with the Carolina Panthers for 18 years. And, Ryan Vermillion was one of Ron Rivera's first hires. And so why I think this is especially notable is just beyond the fact that he is the team's main trainer. That's a big deal in any organization.
Right.
But for Ron Rivera, it's, I want to make a new culture here. I want to turn things around. And, I think he's largely done that. But at the same time, their past problems, you could point to a past regime. And this is really the first, we'll have to see how it goes. But this could be the first big stain on his ledger. And so that's why I think it's worth keeping an eye on.
Right. Talk about not being able to catch a break. This team just seems to just never be able to catch a break on or off the field. But speaking of on the field, not catching a break, it seems that the injury bug has kind of hit this team after this past game. Can you kind of give us an update on the injuries and how they're expected to go going forward?
Yeah, so I think there were about 6 guys who got really banged up, or at least 5 didn't return, and then Torrey McTyer was the 6th who just got back. So 3 starters in that group. John Bostic looks like he's out for the year with a torn pectoral. Logan Thomas is considered week to week with a hamstring. And so we don't know how many weeks, but at the same time, Rivera said today that Sammis Reyes will probably be active next week. So that's an indication Logan Thomas will be out. And then Brandon Sheriff, he's expected to miss a few weeks with a strained MCL. We didn't hear updates about De'Ami Brown or Cam Sims. Maybe they're lesser to extent. Who knows? But let's see. That's am I missing one? No. And Torrey McTyer tore his ACL for the year. So that's kind of where things stand.
Okay. Yesterday was a fun one. Besides all the injuries, what was your biggest surprise from that game?
I think the surprise. I'm not a Taylor Heinicke skeptic by any means, but I just think it's still surprising to see what he's still able to do, especially in the last few minutes of games, and to be able to kind of pull this offense is humming. It really is. The offensive line. I think if I were to actually say what am I the most surprised about, it's this offensive line holding up. Against the Chargers, that they looked pretty bad. I didn't know about the tackle situation, for instance, but they've been really solid the last few weeks, and I think it's given Heinicke time to kind of throw, but more so to extend plays outside the pocket too. They've kind of held the other team in place, and Heinicke can go outside the pocket and scramble for the first down. So it's just an offense that is really humming. I thought Curtis Samuel, he didn't play the most snaps in the world, but that looked like a good element for their offense. So they have some weapons now, and it's kind of humming along.
Yes, and yesterday, as of right now, the updated rankings for this defense, Matt, they're 9th in blitz percentage, they're 4th in hurry percentage, they're 8th in presser percentage, they're 29th in sacks, and they're 21st in quarterback knockdowns. Thank you to Stevie from WFT on Twitter for that. But my question to you is, what is the disconnect here? Because they're top 10 in pressure and hurries, but they're not getting the sacks. What is going on?
Yeah, Ferris kind of talked about the pass rush needing to be a little bit more coordinated. Like, we'll use the Buffalo game as an example. Chase Young is there on the outside, but he loops inside, but the guy doesn't go outside, so it's not just on the same page. And they've been close, but even if the pass rush is there, you still need guys behind them to like basically cover.
Yeah.
The middle of the field has been a problem. We can talk about the linebackers. I think Jamin Davis hasn't been that high impact player that maybe they expected him to be right away, which is okay because he's still a rookie and you need time to develop. But if he's not going to be able to do that right away, you're stuck with Cole Holcomb, who's fine and still a young player, nice, and then John Bostic, who just kind of is what he is, and now he's hurt too. So they're going to have a lot relied on Jamin Davis, and then the secondary, it's a bit of a mess. They brought in William Jackson. He's really struggled. Kendall Fuller isn't having nearly the same type of year as he did last year, and the safeties have been a bit all over the place.
Yeah, that's to say the least.
That's
right
saying it
that.
lightly.
Yeah.
Very
but
nice.
after all the kind of overshadow, like dark cloud of the defense that you just kind of forecasted, who was the guy yesterday that kind of stood out to you on the defense other side of the ball, like maybe like an MVP? Like obviously you could say Terry McLaurin was the offensive MVP with 6 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Who's the guy on the defense that kind of stood out to you yesterday that kind of propelled this team to a win?
Yeah, I don't know about necessarily propelled the team, but the interior of the pass rush is still playing at a very, very high level. Jonathan Allen has really been awesome in the past few weeks, and he's just been dominant. And so it's really good that they've got him under contract because, you look at Brandon Sheriff, who's also played at a high level. They had that contract situation with him. Deron Payne had a really nice game against Buffalo last week. It's just no one is playing at really the high level that you kind of expect them to besides those two. Like, I think Chase Young is still a bit of ways, and Montez Sweat, he's been okay as well.
Yeah, and I want to put this in there. Jonathan Allen, as a defensive end, as a defensive tackle in this defense, had 8 tackles and 1 tackle for loss yesterday, just to show his production. That is the same, 1 less than Cole Holcomb as linebacker.
And a pass breakup.
Yeah. That was fun.
So now that we've talked about everything good that's happened, let's kind of take it over to something that's a little questionable. Dustin Hopkins, where do we go from here?
Yeah, Rivera expressed confidence in him today. It's certainly.
Is he the only one that has confidence in him?
He might be. I think the thing about Dustin Hopkins is, he's the type of guy. Like, the reason you keep Dustin Hopkins around is because he is consistent. He can't really kick beyond 50 yards, and so if you're going to have a kicker like that who doesn't have that leg strength, he's got to be able to make everything in between that 30 to 50 range. And extra point now, they are from 33, and for him to miss both of those, it's it seems like it's the point of now that Hopkins might just be missing kicks. Earlier in the year when he was missing in the preseason, they blamed kind of the operation, which getting used to Cameron Cheeseman, and the speed of the snap, it was different than Nick Sundberg, and so that was a valid thing. And who knows, maybe Cheeseman's snaps are still too fast for them to nail down the timing, but that's also a problem given that you traded up to a 6, like you traded up for him in the draft. Basically, they traded up to grab him in the 6th round. So they're just not on the same page. But I think it does start with Hopkins, just because we can talk about the long snapper change all we want, but Hopkins has struggled in the past here and there too. So it is starting to become a little bit of a worry.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Now, Collins and McCain. I know McCain had the botched play, and I think that's one of the biggest mistakes he's had thus far. I think he's been a great addition to this defense, but I can't say the same for Landon Collins this year. I thought that he in particular had a very bad game yesterday. Him and Bobby McCain accounted for 100% of the snaps, but our guy Cam Curl is sitting there around 70%. Matt, do you think that's going to continue, or do you see Cam Curl kind of taking more snaps right now? Because it almost seems like that should be switched.
Yeah. Yeah, it's surprise, as a reporter, you have to stay objective and stuff and to see, but, in training camp, Landon Collins looked really good.
He did.
And so, I definitely thought he was on he was about to have a turnaround, but it's just so many of the same problems as even before the injury. The missed tackles are glaring, the wrong angles, getting beat deep. Those things are kind of all still there for him. And so you're just kind of trying to figure out what his role on the defense is. And Cam Curl, he's a guy that can play a lot of roles, and he filled those afterwards. I was thinking about it because I was a little bit surprised yesterday that Collins played so much, but then you have to think of the situation too, right? Benjamin St-Juste had a concussion.
That's a good point.
That kicked Kendall Fuller to the outside, and so you're either using McTyer as the nickel cornerback, or what they ended up doing a lot yesterday was they're using Curl as the nickel and then having Collins and McCain as the safeties. And so, it is. I don't think they're in a rush to get off or to change things up there, but it is worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I definitely think that Cam Curl needs to be on the field more. I think he's been the best guy on the back end so far out of all four of those guys. And speaking of a guy that's kind of been questionable on the back end is William Jackson. They paid him a lot of money to come in here to be that number one guy. I know he played a lot of man defense up in Cincinnati, and then coming here, I know Jack Del Rio likes to play mostly zone. So do you see him kind of adjusting to the zone scheme, or do you think he's going to be a problem for this defense going forward? Just keep giving up play after play and kind of penalty after penalty.
Yeah, it is. It remains a work in progress. The thing is that they have played man. I don't have the specific numbers in front of me, but I think there was a 3rd and 15 or something like that yesterday, and they were in pressed man, and they got beaten that as well. So they haven't been as zone heavy as they were last year. I'm pretty confident in that. And what is alarming about Jackson is the 4 pass interference penalties. I was looking it up yesterday. I was like, is this already like a season high or whatever? He had 5 last year too, and now 5 over 16 games. That's not great. It's not terrible either, but he's a handsy corner, and so for him to have 4 within the first 4 games, it's really alarming. It's not what you want. And when you're talking training camp is whether he was the next Josh Norman, that wasn't necessarily a compliment at the time. And, I don't think it's a compliment now either, because it just hasn't really been the smoothest fit.
Yeah. And with St-Juste and losing Torrey, do they have enough defensive backs at this point? Like, do they have to go get somebody? How do they address this?
Yeah, they still have not McTyer, he's done. St-Juste could be back. Concussions aren't a season type of thing, so we'll have to see if he practices this week. But they have Darryl Roberts, who I don't know if I'd have to check the snap counts off the top of my head, but I don't recall seeing him really out there if he was at all.
Me either. I didn't.
So they have him. They kind of like him. Jimmy Moreland isn't here anymore. That would, he'd be nice, but at the same time, Jimmy Moreland is mostly an inside guy. He played outside in college, but that ship has sailed. So maybe they look at adding another cornerback, but at the same time, who's really out there? The Buccaneers, they really needed cornerbacks, and they resorted to signing Richard Sherman, but that was not. I watched that game on the plane yesterday back, and that was not the smoothest performance from him either. So I think the options are kind of what they are at this point. It's just they need to be more coordinated as a defense rather than necessarily going to search for new upgrades, I think.
Yeah. And now to wrap this up, Matt, I'm going to have 2 different questions for you. I'll ask you the second after I ask you the first. But my first one is going to be, This offense, they have been humming, averaging 25 points a game. They have been doing incredibly well. Based off what you've seen of Taylor Heinicke, because of all the questions in the offseason, is he strong enough to be able to go through a 17-game season? Can he take the hits to stay healthy? After these first 3 games, has your impression of Heinicke changed at all?
Yeah, I think in the perception, like my perception is, I think he's a viable quarterback. I don't know if he's the long-term sort of thing, but as long as he stays healthy, I think they're going to be fine with him. If let's say Ryan Fitzpatrick is healthy enough to play, and we don't know if that's going to be an absolute, but I think I would stick with Heinicke right now, and that's kind of where we're at. This offense is humming, so it's been a really impressive job by him, but there still are long-term concerns. The health being, I think, the biggest question. He's talked a little bit about, adding weight and being stronger that way, but we've seen like the leg sleeve after the Chargers game, and you just kind of worry that something's going to happen. But so far, it's been encouraging. He's made it out of 3-4 games, which is kind of more than his past track record.
It's
so
true.
It is that. It's just, I don't know if I also, he still, there were some throws yesterday even that he was kind of slow throwing the ball, and guys were open. And so, you would probably look for, you could do an upgrade in terms of the intangibles and that sort of thing. But right now, there's no reason to say, let's go to Kyle Allen or anything like that.
Yeah, I lied to you. I have 2 more for you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But the Chase Young penalty, we asked Austin Gayle earlier. He didn't know what that was about. What was the reaction from the press box? And what do you kind of think that, I know Coach will never publicly go against the refs or say it was a bad call or anything because he could be fined. Yeah. But if you could say, what was up with that, dude?
Yeah, if it was really like the slow replay of it, like I can kind of see Young's like arm. It looks like he hits him in the shoulder mostly, but I can kind of see like the face mask just turned, so maybe in full speed it kind of looked like it to the ref. Like it just was a ticky-tack call, because like if you're gonna do roughing the passer, then how was he still able to make the throw?
Yeah,
he was down by contact, but he made the throw that was picked off by Bobby McCain. So like, we asked, there was a pool reporter after the game, but the explanation was that he made contact to the head and face mask area, and so that's why the penalty was thrown.
And then my last question for you, with John Bostic being out for the year, obviously Jamin Davis is going to be getting a whole bunch of snaps, probably the majority of them. But who would be the Jamin Davis now with John Bostic being out, that third guy? Because you would sit here and say it'd be Khaleke Hudson. But then Khaleke is more of like that nickel kind of Rhino. What was the name of it? I'm sorry. Buffalo nickel. Like that kind of. So who do you think would it be? David Mayo coming in as that Jamin Davis replica, or they're going to mortgage with their rookie pick with Khaleke Hudson?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of Hudson, and he can't do a bit of both, but he would be in the order. Like Rivera did mention Mayo a little bit, but he also mentioned Khaleke Hudson first.
Okay.
And so, Sam Fortier of the Washington Post, he asked like, what's kind of been the learning curve for Hudson? Why hasn't been able to get on the field? And Rivera said that basically it was the guys in front of him, just that they drafted Davis to be their first. He is their first round pick. They expected him to be a 3-down linebacker, and then they still were really high on John Bostic, just that leadership and stuff that he provided. So, he just hasn't really been able to get on the field, but we'll see what he can do, because he was a 5th round pick and Cole Holcomb was a 5th round pick, so maybe
that's a good point. They're going to need him this weekend against this fast offense going against the New Orleans Saints. I can't thank you enough, Matt. I know that you are very busy for the Washington Times. I told you this on DM. I love your questions that you ask Rivera. They're very well thought out. And he always has to pause when he's answering those because they're good. I can't thank you enough, sir. And just in case there's no people watching that don't follow you already, if you want to plug all your social media platforms so they can follow your work.
Yeah, sure. You can follow me on Twitter at Mathew_Paras. That's Paras. And then you can just find my work at the Washington Times website, washingtontimes.com/sports, or just click the sports tab. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Thank you so much for your time and your intellect, Matt. You brought a lot of insight, and I really do appreciate that, all right? You have a good night, sir.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yes, sir. You have a good night, sir. All right, everybody. We just spoke with Matt Paras. And so to wrap up this episode, I wanted to go over. We have one question sent in from a fan. What were you going to say, Hall?
I was gonna say before you get to the question and before we wrap up, for him to say that it's kind of been the guys in front of Khaleke Hudson, which is the reason why he's not been on the field, is a bit scary because the way this linebacker core has been playing, if he hasn't been good enough to get on the field over those guys, I don't know how it's going to look on Sunday going against a guy like Alvin Kamara coming out the backfield.
Yeah. Now, look, that's a good point. I do think that there is more of like the mold that he fits because
he's
he
a
is
smaller
not
guy.
because he's not like the gap filler. You know what I mean? And that's kind of
he's
what
more
Boston.
of like that kind of Cam Curl kind of fill the box kind of guy.
Right, exactly. But that being said, when the film that I watched from the preseason, he did incredibly well with being able to fill holes, get around blocks, and so I do think he has progressed in that area. I'm very confident in Khaleke Hudson, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, to move on to our last question is from our guy Aki G, who DM'd me this. He said, "What up, big dog? Happy Monday. Question for the pod. What do you guys think it's going to have to get Del Rio to stop running zone in 3rd and short situations?" Hall.
First of all, I don't know if it was you or somebody, but I took a picture as well. It was like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5 maybe. And it was like a 3 or 4 wide receiver set for the Falcons. And I was literally yelling at my TV because every single defensive back was lined up like 3 yards behind the first down line. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Why are you not pressed up on him? Why y'all not jamming him at the line of scrimmage, knowing that it's only X amount of yards to get to the first down, the first down marker? And on top of that, why are you so far back? Like, play up on the line. If they get to the line, play at the line. But that's neither here or there. I don't even remember the question now because I just went on a rant.
What do you to stop running zone in 3rd and short?
Oh, yeah.
What is it gonna have to take?
Yeah, well, you heard, and I've actually saw the numbers. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but they have played a fairly good amount of man coverage this year. It's just the problem is, even when they are playing man, they're still getting beat on 3rd down, 2nd downs, whatever the down is. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. That's just kind of is what it is at this point. I know, like I said before, William Jackson was a heavy man guy in Cincinnati. It's just for some reason he's taking time to adjust here. He's not even really getting beat a lot. It's just when he gets beat, it's kind of like a glaring moment and like a big moment in the game. But with that being said, yeah, I don't know. I got nothing else.
Dude, honestly, Aki, I don't know what's going to take to stop them because even when they do go man in those short yardage situations, they'll just run pick routes and the refs won't call the pass interference unless we run it on offense. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it before. Do I think it's the bad call? No, because you don't know in that situation what they're going to do, but I do understand your point and what you're saying because there were plays that I saw. There was one, it was a 2nd and 15, or no, a 1st and 15, and we line up in zone. Jamin Davis is too far inside. Landon Collins is a strong safety coming over to play that leak zone right there. A tight end runs a quick out and literally picks up 13 yards on that play because Landon Collins is too slow to get over. I don't know what their issue is because if you go man there, Landon Collins straight up on that guy. Do I believe that Landon could play man on him? I'm not sure about that. We saw what Cordero Patterson did to him one-on-one in man in that red zone, and that led to a touchdown. So I'm not sure what they should do at this point, but basically it comes down to execution, in my personal opinion, and it's putting the right guys out there that need to be out there, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, when it comes down to it, it doesn't necessarily look all the time like it's the wrong scheme. It doesn't. But somehow there's just nothing that seems to be working for Del Rio.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mean, personally, I want to see him bring more pressure and have that help. And it's not the first time I've said it with you guys. It's not the first time I've said it on Twitter, but I mean,
they send pressure a lot. Remember, I said they're 9th in blitz percentage, they're 4th in hurry percentage, they're 8th in pressure percentage.
They need to get home.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. They just need to get home there, and it seems like they're playing scared, and he's calling scared like plays. Like there's no reason to be that soft on receivers, ever.
It's almost like the yips with baseball players, in my personal opinion. And that's what it's kind of like with the defense, because once a defense gets confident, they can actually play pretty well because they're not playing scared. They don't feel like they're getting bled to death. And it's like that's what's happening here. But I will say the Montez Sweat sack that he had, they ran a stunt play with him and Daron Payne. He drives perfectly into the left guard, which takes the left tackle and left guard out of the play, which opens up the wrap round for Daron Payne on that stunt. Mm-hmm. That wraparound forced Matt Ryan to step up, which took Montez Sweat right into Matt Ryan's lap. They only rushed 4 on that play, but they got home. That's this defense at its best. They've tried to send blitzes. I've seen it multiple times with linebackers sending 5, 6 at a time. They're just not getting there. They're able to see the holes and get them. My biggest issue is that they're showing it too much pre-snap. They're not disguising anything. Nothing is being confused. They can see everything, and Matt Ryan is a professional, so he knows what's coming, especially with the Ron Rivera defense that they're matching up against it for so long, in my personal opinion. So going against this weekend with Jameis Winston, I think they can really benefit with it because I don't think Jameis will see it coming.
I'm so glad you made that point because I was going to bring that up. Another point I wanted to bring up about this defense is, and even going back to the whole man thing is, obviously if you're playing man coverage, you're kind of expecting, all right, we can guard the receiver for 2, maybe 3 seconds, maybe a little bit more than 3 seconds if you're a great corner. But you expect your defensive line to kind of create some pressure, get in the quarterback's face, kind of disrupt the quarterback, get him off his mark to kind of give the secondary that extra little bit of time to either break on the ball or stay with the receiver if they somehow get beat. And also with that being said, what happened to this defensive line putting their hands up and batting down passes? Do you remember at this point in the season last year, nobody was calling him Montez Sweat. Everyone was calling him Montez Swat. Because he was out there swatting everything. Jonathan Allen, D. Payne, even Chase was out there swatting passes down. And it's just like, for some reason this year, you see them get their hands up every now and then, but it's like, I just feel like it's not enough. I can't get to him. Let me try to get my hands up. Especially with this quick game, you got to think like, all right, bet if I can't get there, look at my hands up. But again, what do I know? I'm just a guy.
Yeah, I'm just a guy. Now, Akiji, I know you had another question for us. So I'm going to save that for Friday. But before we get out of here, let's hand out our game balls and gassers. Okay, so let's give out people that deserve, or game beers. How about that? Let's hand out the game beers for the players that deserve to have a beer, to kick their feet up and enjoy the rest of their day because they balled out yesterday against the Falcons in the 34-30 win. So who is getting your game beer, Todd?
I mean, I got a big-ass Bud Light sitting ready for Taylor Heinicke. I mean, that one's a little obvious, but he balls out. He delivers in the final minutes. He understands the offense, and he just makes the right plays. He's what we thought we were going to get from Fitzpatrick in a younger body with a little less arm strength, but he's doing just an awesome job of making sure that he's putting the team in a position to win.
Yeah, and one thing, Taylor's legs help out so much because he runs for first downs, gets positive yardage on plays that just fizzle out, and it just passes everyone by, but it's almost like that Kirk Cousins check down where it's like, you don't think about it, but it does a lot for the drive because it's giving you short yardage. That is such a great option that Taylor provides. Somebody that's getting my game ball, my boy right here, man, Terry McLaurin. 6 receptions, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Right now, he is tied for first with 2 other wide receivers with 11 most explosive receptions in the NFL today, only tied with 2 other guys of 15-plus yards or more. My goodness, is he destroying it. He's catching everything, and he brought up the one drop he had, which was even his fault. The defender came and put his helmet on it and popped it out, and he even brought that up and said, yes, I know I had that drop, but the guys told me it was all good, and they lifted me up. Like, I love you, Terry. You make all the plays that are necessary. You are elite. You are a superstar. You're a top 5 wide receiver in this league. Always believed in you. Enjoy the game beer. Chug it. Sit on the couch next to Taylor. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, and with that being said, obviously this defense has not been playing up to par, so it's only right for me to give my game beer to another offensive guy. And I'm going to go with J.D. McKissic. Obviously, got the game-winning touchdown, like Kyle mentioned previously, and I watched it like in live. He literally almost killed a guy, punished a guy, came across the formation to punish a guy on a pass block to give Taylor Heinicke a little bit more time.
And on the final drive, there was a play where the Falcons had rushed 5, and there was a free runner going straight at Taylor Heinicke. JD came up and cut blocked him, completely took him out of the play. That was, I think, a 2nd and 12, and Taylor ended up finding DeAndre Carter for a huge play
40,
to get to the 50.
I think it was like a 20-something yard pass, 40 yards, something like that.
If JD doesn't make that block, that's a sack right there, and the game's over.
100%. So, like I said, 2 rushes for 15 yards. But again, his strength is not really in the ground game. It's what he adds as a pass catching receiver out the backfield and lined up all over the field. So definitely a guy that's been underrated in this league for a while. He came here and almost like kind of resurged his career. So happy for him. JD, kick your feet up, crush a big old cold Stella or trois.
Yeah. And do we have any honorable mentions? Anyone you want to bring up that does deserve a game beer?
Yeah. Even though
DeAndre Carter, I think, deserves it.
I was going to say DeAndre Carter, but a guy that, like I said, didn't really make an impact as far as numbers-wise, as far as the stats go, but Curtis Samuel, first time back on the field since May. First time stepping on the field, getting some live game action. Again, only 4 catches for 19 yards. But when you have a team that's like literally either 31st or 32nd in the league on converting third downs, when you come in and already convert 3 by yourself, that's saying a lot about a guy. So can't wait to see him more using the offense. So kick back, enjoy your beer, and hopefully we get a double the output next week.
All right, I got one more. I was also thinking Curtis Samuel just as a welcome back beer, but I got to buy around for the entire offensive line.
Yeah, there we go. I like that a lot. They do deserve it, man. They have been
absolutely
freaking tastic. They have given him buttloads of time. But I'll give 2 honorable mentions for beers. First one, Jonathan Allen, 8 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. He controlled the line of scrimmage where he was. That was beautiful to watch with the way that he did well.
Don't forget his pass breakup.
Yep. And then the other one, I'm going to give to Chase Young. I know everyone keeps talking about his pressures and his sacks. They used him on loops and on stunt plays a lot, which forced Matt Ryan incompletions, which forced the ball out of his hands. Chase Young is playing back. He was hustling to the football on a screen. I know the penalty was stupid. I know we want to yell at him for just hitting him in the chest and not tackling him. But at this point, what can he do? If he tackles him and lays on top of him, they're going to throw another flag. They just looking for an excuse at this point to throw a flag. I can't hate Chase Young for that. Honorable mention there. Now, let's move on to our gassers. Who deserves a gasser, Hall? Or not? No, sorry. Who deserves a keg stand?
Keg stand. Got to go with my man Landon Collins. It's time for you to do the keg stand, bro. Like Paris mentioned, like Matt Paras mentioned, like Austin Gayle mentioned. Damn, did I freeze?
No, I can still hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, missed tackles all over the field. Just out of position. Can't really cover. Just slow to cover guys. Not really anticipating what routes are coming up. So, look, next week is a whole new game. Hopefully flip it around a little bit, but it's not looking good for Landon, and looks like he might be doing a lot of keg stands in the future.
Yeah, Landon was going to be mine, but I'm sorry, but it's John Bostic. I know he's a very nice guy. Met his childhood friend down in Cancun for honeymoon, and he says he's the best guy in the world. Very, very nice. But look, man, he's destroying this defense with his pass play. Obviously, he's out for the year, which sucks. I hope him a speedy recovery. But he was hemorrhaging this defense, man. The missed tackle down on Mike Davis, which led to multiple missed tackles, that is just inexcusable. And especially with Landon Collins on that Cordero Patterson touchdown. That's inexcusable. At least wrap him up and impede his progress. Do not allow him to get positive yardage. Gang tackle. Wrap him up. Give your boys some time to come over and tackle him. It's got to be John Bostic. He got eaten alive again in the middle of the field. I don't know why he's still out there, but look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the injury. Hopefully the guys can respond and Jamin can progress in a very short amount of time. Who's getting the keg stand, Todd?
I don't even know that I want to invite him to the party for a keg stand. Like, he can just wait outside. I'm sorry, Dustin Hopkins. Like, he just – I feel like I've been crushing him all season, and I really like him. He's a very nice guy. But since preseason, we've had the same issues. The fact they let him back on the flight home, like, it's just getting embarrassing at this point. And I love Ron and the fact that he's sticking with his guy. But 2 missed extra points? Is that –
Yeah,
you can't.
You can't. Look,
you're
waiting for Dustin Hopkins to show to you that he's not the guy, but he continues making these short little spurts here and there, like the Bills game with the kickoff, making those field goals. He redeemed himself the extra points with this short field goal at the end of the game to get them to 24 4, whatever the hell it was.
4.
Yeah. So I know it sucks, but the fact being is you don't know if they would bring in a guy and that he would miss a game winner in 2 games. You don't know. That could always happen. You know what I mean? It sucks about D-Hop, but dude, just make the extra point. It's the easiest field goal to make.
Dustin Hopkins is like that girlfriend that like you're just like, oh, I'm so sick of her. I'm gonna end this. I'm done. And then the very next day she does something that you're just like, huh? You know what?
Oh, she made coffee this morning.
I guess
All
I'll
right.
keep her. I guess I'll keep her around. But then next week the same thing happens again. But look, hopefully he's the girlfriend that learned from his ways, and
I hope so. I hope he gets I want to hand him a game beer next week. I want him to make 4 field goals against New Orleans and just let's party it up with him. But for this week, he's on the keg stand.
I agree. And thank you so much to everybody for tuning into this episode. I'm Kyle.
I am Hall.
I'm Todd.
And we will be back with you on Friday with the great episode with some stellar guests lined up for us. It's going to be releasing on Friday. We are recording on Thursday. It's releasing on Friday.
True.
You're good.
Don't listen to me. Friday.
All right, everybody. I'll see you then. All right, be safe. Don't do anything stupid that I would do. And we'll see you guys on Friday. Washington
Let's just enjoy a win while we can.
I know.
Enjoy the win. Let's get another one.
Everyone's so angry on Twitter. Just enjoy the win.
Bobby McCain, thank you for going after them like that, bro. You're my dude. You're my dog. All right, guys. We'll see you on Friday. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!